Well, hello and welcome to the garden. It's Amanda, the creative gardener. It's been a while, hasn't it? So I am making provisions in the garden, making some changes as we approach the hurricane season. And motorway. Um, there's quite a few things to be done, so I thought I would give you a few ideas as to some of the things that I do beforehand. My garden is totally on a budget, and all the plants here, if you are new to the channel, have I've brought a few of the plants. The Ministry of Agriculture every year at AgroFest, they usually sell reduced price plants. And then there's the Whole Town Festival where you get some people who sell plants, and Brighton Market, which I often get things like rosemary, and I use that in tea and in cooking. Um, and just it's usually the small plants I brought. Other than that, I've kind of exchanged with other gardeners, so getting a cutting. Actually, this is my canistel, so I brought this, and I've brought a few things, but most of them have either been grown from seed or cut in, or has been an exchange with another gardener. So let's have a look at some of the preparations that I'm making in the garden, and maybe there's some ideas that you can take up as well. So come with me. Okay, so where should we start first? So you'll see on the ground over yonder, and if we come this way, there's this is fountain grass that I've put here. Now this is just a temporary measure. Every year I cut back the fountain grass quite a bit and use it as covering for the ground. This particular part of the garden and up there, we're on a slope in two directions. It gets very muddy, so when the dog comes out and when he comes back into the house, he's bringing his muddy footprints. So that was one of the ways in which I addressed that. I am looking to grow, say, this kind of grass that is very slow growing and is short, but it's not yet taken. And again, so this is one of the budget things. If I had a electric chipper, when I trim some of the trees, I could create my own wood chips. So that's on the agenda for another time, to be able to put wood chips down in all the paths and not only retain some of the water that falls from the rainfall, but also to stop it from being muddy, because then it's a headache, and especially during the rainy season, it's just like you're always mopping the floor. Anyway, so that's one of the budget things that I do. I cut the grass. It then provides a covering. When it rains, it's not muddy. Cold doesn't bring the mud in. And I could have done it slightly where I cut it up, but I don't have, one of my tools is broken, so I'm now only down to my hand cutter. I don't have my long-armed one, so that's why it looks like this. I would normally cut it into bits and then sprinkle it on. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm building this kind of terraced area. So I've done a lot of moving rocks and marl, and then what happened, it was late last year. This was ready for, I was going to make some concrete kind of stepping stones. So this all was covered in marl and it was clearly defined, and then the rain came and washed it all away. And it washed it here. So it washed it down here and down towards the well in that direction. So one of the things I needed to do to address the fact that when you look at this area, you can see it's a very distinctive slope. So what I want to do is slow the rate of water down here. So this area itself has to be built up. So I have to move more rocks. And I realized that this area up here is still much lower than the neighbors. So the neighbors land kind of stops there, and then you've got a drop, and then so all the water just comes rushing down. So one of the things that I've got to do is build this area up. So what I imagine is, okay, I'm looking for hints and tips. Again, this is budget, moving the rocks from one area to here. So what I thought I'll do is raise this area so that if the water is running, it would run, well, ideally I'd want it to run up and then run down into the beds. So the water then will be taken just up one level and it can come down here. So I'm trying to make all of that kind of level with the other part. So the water can run down here. The beds here are going to be, I've still got to mulch them really well. So the beds here will be mulched. So it's going to slow down the rate of the water. And then, yeah, it might come down here. So if I've raised the top one, obviously I'm raising the next layer to be where this one is, and then this layer will be where that one is. And then in this general area, I need to raise this about, I would say maybe 5 inches. So where the tire is, half the height of the tire, say to about there, I need to raise this. And then on the other side where I put the rocks, to raise it to this highest point here. Because the other thing the water was doing was just running down here. So it would run down this way and then run over there and down under the house into the nursery. And it would be like 2-3 inches high. So in raising this, the water then is diverted, so it's not going directly under there. But obviously will, go towards the well, directed here. And the only other thing I need to do is to the marl that's kind of settled along here, remove this so that you retain the height of the groove here, or like a mini swale. It's not a long one, a deep one. Anyway, so they were the kind of practical things, and then layering the chop and drop on the beds so that they could retain as much moisture as possible. I mean, it was getting so dry that one day I came out and the roots of this were showing, and it was leaning over, and it was just like, what has dug that up? But it was so dry that what I had to do was just cover it and mound it up, give it a good water, and then just keep an eye on it. So I talked about chipping the wood. So this is the neem tree that we're looking at. That was grown from seeds. That one, I'm so proud. all of the plants were grown from seeds, apart from the mahogany tree, which was here when we came. And so this one was also grown from seed. So I need to trim them, and at the moment they are producing their seeds. And it's such an amazing feeling just to see that kind of cycle. This is like the third or fourth time they've produced the seeds, their fruit, and the birds have a great time in the garden because there is so much food for them to access. We've got the moringa tree, we've got and the pods, we've got the neem tree pods. This particular tree here is henna. It was having a few problems because it was, really, really dry, but we've had quite a bit of water, so it's kind of recovering. And then we've got the seeds are in here. Loads of seeds are planted around the garden. I find that does better if you take a cutting. I've not had any success with the growing from seed, and as I say, I've planted hundreds. Anyway, so yeah, this one is the shak tree, and it's been cut once, and I was trying to get it trimmed by half so that it could be manageable, because I have difficulty reaching up there, so I had to have a guy come in and trim it back. But it needs to be trimmed back at least to here, and then I could just allow it to grow. It's got beautiful scented flowers as well, so it's a really nice scent in the garden. The only thing is the pods, that the seeds, it produces hundreds of seeds, and you could check some of my other shak tree videos and see. But yeah, just to trim some of the trees and then use the wood either in the studio. I use it in some of my art projects. I do wood burning, and then use it as either adding towards my deadwood hedge, which you can see in front of you. It goes all around the garden. It's kind of like a makeshift one, but again, if you're on a budget, we didn't have the budget for a fence, so the next best thing is creating the appearance of a hedge, and the wood then just slowly rots over the years, and then you plant trees or plants that are hedge forming. So we've got the scaevola. We've got the scaevola here. I found over the years the Mexican sunflower is not really a very good hedge. It gets very woody, and there are these ants, the really large ants, that love boring into the main thing, and they just make their home, make it hollow, and then but this scaevola, which is this one, that's a fairly decent hedging plant. See, we've got some more of this. Is another area that gets very muddy as coal runs over it. And then this is another example of where you place the branches horizontal. And so what I've done on one side is I've got plants that are growing, and on the other side, so that will contain, we've got the quadrilla indica here, and this plant is the one that is very scented, but it also is very good in very dry conditions. It's it's very hardy. So the Mexican sunflower, which is here, it gets very just woody and brittle, so it's not a very good hedging plant unless you can keep it low. You have to keep cutting it. The ones on the outskirts have kind of got away. As I say, my long-armed tool broke. I've gone through my third one in 7 years. So, look what we got there. But yeah, look at the Mexican sunflower. So I've just planted on one side, and then on the other side planted, say, the Quadrilla indica, or some of the river tamarind plants are growing on the other side, where they've just kind of all come from those pods up there, and that's another tree that needs to be trimmed. And what we have here is there's some sort of either animal or bug that eats the bark and then kind of destroys the tree. Now there was an example here we can take a look at. Okay, so this is the river tamarind, and so something strips the bark and then everything above kind of dies. I've not identified what could be doing it, but normally around this time all of this would have been trimmed. So we've got new growth on the Mexican sunflower, but what you want to do is make sure you trim it at least a couple of times a year, cut it right back, and that helps it doesn't get too leggy, and it doesn't get so woody. So you need to keep trimming it. You let it grow, then trim it back, use it as chop and drop, and it's been a really good plant, because that was the first hedging plant that I had, and it grows very quickly. So I need to get myself another tool to kind of just trim these guys and the ones at the front. So the other thing that's growing really well is the noni. Look at that. Again, it's another plant that I need to trim, and I think that would be the highest that I'd want it to get to, and it's kind of spreading out. So this was its corner. I said, yeah, you can have this corner, but I just want it to kind of just to be a bit more contained. So just trim off the top, and then I use the leaves in cooking, in tea. It's very good for your immune system, and I'm a testament to it. I know how it makes me feel. It makes me feel like you do have a burst of energy when you drink it. And I usually combine this with soursop leaf as well in a tea. So here's the neem tree again. So I can't trim it yet, because up there you can see there's a little bird's nest up there. They've built their nest from cotton and some of the leaves, and that's the good thing about, when you get the leaf drop here. So I've left this on the path. All of this is the neem tree that's dropped, and it's just naturally falling on the path, so that's good. This bit of the path is fine. It doesn't need any kind of additions, but the birds will gather the grasses and to help build their nest. So it's like a lovely to coexist with them, so that they can get what they need. They provide the bird song and eat the bugs, and do what they need to do in the garden, and they get their food and sustenance. And it's so nice to have bird song in the garden. So here, all of this needs to be trimmed, and even the nonis, being there's some sort of bugs that are eating up. So I'm gonna have to come out with the neem spray, make some up and spray them. And the other thing I found is termites. So we've got termites in the garden, and this tree has got some that I've got to deal with. So I've got to get on with that. And that's the shack tree, but here's the shack pods. They just drop it. It looks so messy, and for years I've been coming and picking up these pods until I trimmed the tree. I trimmed it a few years ago, and now it's kind of needs another trimming so it can get so it can be maintained and managed. All of them, really, that's what you do. So we've got the remnants of a bird's nest. Oh, let me show you the latest nest that we've got, and then I'll let you get on. I was thinking to myself, why did you... It was a tree that I was going to trim, and it's here. I saw a little bird fly into it this morning, and it was just like, really? So it's the banana quit. That's the banana quit's nest. Can you see it? I think you get a better view here. Yeah. So it's just like, I was just about to trim that branch, but okay, bring forth your young, and I'll do it afterwards. Yeah, so it's nice having the birds in the garden. So that was it, just a kind of a little tour for you, looking at a few things. I'm going to pick one of the noni leaves, and I'm going to use it in some tea. And I'm also going to get a lemon leaf, because they're also nice I just usually combine that with ordinary tea, so maybe later on I might have a cup of ordinary tea with a piece of lemon, a lemon leaf in it, and it's almost like Earl Grey tea or chai tea. It adds flavour, these leaves, so you could use basil, rosemary, bay leaf, if you want to combine it, or just have it on its own as a green tea. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward next week to be sharing more things in the garden. You will have noticed I've been putting up some shorts, so that gives you some snippets of what's happening in the garden. So do come and join me again, and I look forward to hearing what you're growing. So take care for now.